This video is quotes of the Founding Fathers, but really I'm going to do David Barton quotes first. So he's a great historian. I read a couple of his books. I watched a bunch of his videos. I thought he was great. So let me just give you a little bit of backstory. We'll do some of his quotes for today. The Puritans and whatnot came over to Mayflower in USA in 1620. There were other groups of Puritans, of course, coming over and peoples. The Northerners were more religious than the Southerners, but they were very religious too, the Southerners. My observation is that teaching of Christian history in teaching American history without teaching its Christian origin, it's like teaching health without nutrition and toxicology. It's a fraud. It's bogus. Okay. Conventional medicine doesn't teach nutrition, epidemiology, toxicology, and those are the three most important things in healthcare and in prevention of disease. So it becomes a joke. And so to teach America's history without teaching Christianity is a joke. And that's done on purpose to make people weak and stupid and gullible so that the country can be destroyed. All right, a couple things here. The Constitution, written by 55 framers in 1787, ratified in Delaware Convention 1787. And there were lots of delegates who supported it and all the people who voted for them, of course. The founders, confidence, the whole foundation of it, the whole idea of it was a Christian society. Built on faith in a benevolent God. Let's see, they were also highly schooled. Ayn Rand had said, the founding fathers of the United States were by far the best founding fathers of any country ever in the history of the world. They were remarkably intelligent and well-educated. They had read Cicero, the Romans, Polybius, Tacitus, Plato, Socrates, Aristotle, Plutarch's Lives. They knew Machiavelli, John Locke, Montesquieu. They knew about Augustus. They knew about the Roman emperors. They knew all that stuff. And of course, they knew quite a bit about the King of England, who, they felt was treating them unfair. No taxation without representation. Some David Barton quotes now. He says, America has about 250 people reasonably considered founding fathers, FF. Thomas Jefferson, Ben Franklin, Thomas Paine are just 3 of the 250. Anybody who signed the Declaration of Independence would be considered like one of the founding fathers. Okay, there are 55 signers of the Constitution, about 90 signers of the Bill of Rights. John Jay, Patrick Henry, all these guys. Benjamin Rush was one of the most important founding fathers. David Barton says that 95% of the founding fathers were very devout Christians. And additional ones were Christians, just not as devout. He says that in the 1800s, the students were taught at least about 56 of the signers, okay? They knew the people that signed the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and whatnot. It was in all the standard textbooks. He said this was all taken out of the standard textbooks for teaching students. And they were originally taught how religious the whole thing was, okay? And they were taught the Bible in school. Nowadays, people only hear about the least religious of them, Thomas Jefferson and Ben Franklin, but they're much more religious than people realize. Thomas Jefferson, by modern standards, would be a religious fanatic. Okay, let's see what else. Ben Franklin, he recommended that Christianity be taught in all the public schools in Pennsylvania where he was. He made efforts to encourage church attendance. Ben Franklin defended Christianity against Thomas Paine. Thomas Paine was a little bit more atheistic, but remember, that's what the whole French Rev was all about in the 1790s. The French Rev was evil in comparison with the 1776 Americans. The 1776 Americans wanted freedom for the people. No taxation without representation, okay? They were getting abused by England. Versus in France, it was almost like the opposite. It was, they killed tons and tons of priests and nuns. They were awful. What happened in France was more like the Soviets in 1918, okay? It was bad. Let's see here. Ben Franklin routinely quoted the Bible. He recommended daily prayer during the Constitutional Convention. He pushed religion. They try to take this out of the history books. Thomas Jefferson wanted the Great Seal of the USA to include a Bible story. He wanted to send Christian priests to evangelize all the Indians, the United States, American Indians. He signed documents in the year of our Lord Christ. Okay, let's move this up a little bit. Okay, so he invoked Jesus Christ in his official writings while he was in office. Okay, so remember that, they didn't want, when they say separation of church and state, they didn't want people forced to be, Anglican like the English or something like that. They wanted them to have freedom to be whatever version of Christianity they wanted. Let's see, when Thomas Jefferson was president, he had the Marine Band to play worship songs, Christian songs in the USA Capitol. Okay? So that's important to get that clear. In 1800, Congress said that the Capitol should have Christian church masses in the USA Capitol. So in the hall, and in the hall of the House of Representatives, they had church, they had mass in the same spot where they would legislate, Christian mass. In my other videos, I got paintings of them all praying, original paintings from back in the day of them praying in the same buildings where they would legislate. They would have mass in those same buildings. That's an important point to realize how religious they were. Okay, and a lot of them you'd say, you're not going to get this country to work unless you have Christian ethics. That's obvious if you actually understand. Let's see, I know of no way of judging the future but the past. Patrick Henry, he was pretty intensely Christian. Signers included John Witherspoon, who's, Bible translator guy, a reverend. Lots of them were reverends, pastors in some form. Another Bible translator guy. John Hancock called on the people of the state of Massachusetts to pray to Christ. John Trumbull said we need to take from our state state collections, whatever they were, for the Christian missionaries. It wasn't regular taxes in those days. Let's see, Benjamin Rush, the leading educator, founding father, he was a teacher of medical students, and he was a leader in the abolition movement, to get freedom. They wanted freedom for everybody. They had to get the early unification of the South, which they couldn't get without letting it go at that time. Benjamin Rush also started America's first Bible study. And like I said, too, he was the Surgeon General. The Surgeon General was a devout Christian starting Bible studies and telling everybody to pray. Yeah, and I'll bet you healthcare was better back in those days. Benjamin Rush, it is in living by the Bible that man becomes civilized and humanized. He was a major promoter of printing low-cost Bibles so that everyone could own a copy. Samuel Adams, another one of the founding fathers, I rely on Jesus Christ for the pardon of my sins. Okay, Charles Carroll, I think he was an Irish guy. He built a church, a house of worship. Francis Hopkins, another founding father, signer of the Declaration of Independence, collected together the Christian Psalms, musics and words. Okay, Robert Stockton. Okay. Benjamin Rush. Let's see, Benjamin Rush, Surgeon General. Well, anyways, it goes on and on. You'll see more and more of this stuff. Intense devotion to Christ and Christianity amongst the founding fathers, and the way the early Americans were educated in the late 1700s, early 1800s. So it's important to know that's the American history. That's the true American history. That's what led to the most free, greatest country ever in the history of the world. And as America has moved away from Christianity, you get all this nonsense and like all the craziness in Hollywood nowadays. So anyways, I'll do more of these founders quotes. That's a good start for today.